Hello, Big Brother brothers and sisters. It is almost time for the Big Brother Season 23 finale. We are not far away to see who is crowned the champion of Big Brother 23. It will be the first African-American player to win Big Brother ever in history. So it's an amazing accomplishment. It's been an interesting week. I must say, it's been shocking a little bit, but it's been an interesting week. And I'll explain why. Stick around. We're going to cover everything Big Brother from last week, week 11 on Big Brother. So let's start out with everything that happened at the very beginning of this episode. Basically, now we have sent Hannah home and everybody is filled with emotion. Of course, Derek F, or Big D, is very filled with so much emotion because he was kept around. And Kylan kept him. Kylan kept his word. He's trying to keep the three guys together. He's doing what he can do to make sure that they keep this alliance together. Now, we do find out that Asa wanted to be loyal to Derek F and X. We found that out, but now we know the truth now because Asa explains in her confessional that she was trying to make sure Hannah went home. Which Asa did a great job lying. She said she wanted to keep all of these promises to all of these guys that were around her, but didn't want to keep her loyalty with Hannah. Maybe she felt like Hannah and her didn't have that type of relationship, which I really didn't see the connection between Asa and Hannah. The only thing that really connected Hannah and Asa was Tiffany. So once Tiffany was out the house and Hannah was there all by herself, what do you think Asa's going to do? Asa's going to be like, okay, we're getting rid of Hannah. We got to get Hannah up and out of here. So that was her decision. And I mean, I'm fine with that if she thought that was best for her game. So far, it looks like it might have paid off. We will see in the upcoming show because we still don't know who's going to stick around. So, Kylan tells Hannah that he thinks that he was going to vote for her. So they go to a flashback of what is going to happen, and we find out that he tells Hannah that he may vote for her, which is another lie, which might send Hannah back to the jury house a little upset with Kylan. Do you see this common denominator that people are pissed at Kylan? I just said that last week, that people in the jury house don't like Kylan. Now he's pissed another person off, which is Hannah. And, Chad is like, okay, I'm going to go to the jury house a little upset. You're playing a good game, but you're making a lot of people mad within this house. So can you see why she might be a little bit upset? But she left out with so much style and grace. I loved Hannah. I'm sad to see her go, but it had to happen. So finally, we get to the part where we find out that X also lied to Hannah. So Hannah has a reason to be mad at X and to be mad at Kylan all together. So she can really hold gripes, but she knows that they're playing the game that they had to play. So Derek F now knows that he has to make this line. There has to be a line between Kai and X. He has to choose who he wants to go forward with. And it looks like he's leaning a little bit more towards X at this time. He does go and have a conversation with Kylan and explains to Kylan, I think that was either this episode or a later episode, that, I need to see where I stand with you. And Kylan wasn't being very forthcoming with it. I'll probably get to that in my note, but that was a part that really stuck out to me because he was really trying to make his decision on who he was going to roll with, and whoever he could trust more, he was going to roll with. So in a way, I feel like Kylan did himself a disservice by not really wanting to discuss. He was like, I'm in this mindset right now where I really am just thinking about getting to the top three. Is that something you want to be telling that to somebody who may hold this power the next week? I don't think so, Kylan. It wasn't a good move on his behalf. So we find out that X made a final two with Big D first and not Kylan. There's a whole flashback. I don't even remember a part. Maybe that happened on one of the shows, like the after shows or something like that, where he made this deal. I don't remember them airing that, but it looks like there was a deal that was made with him and Big D from the very beginning, right before Kylan had any kind of deal with X. So he's going to be most loyal to the person that he made the deal with first. So we find that out also. So we get to the crime theme competition where we're trying to vie for HOH, and they have to match certain things on a tire. They have to tell the difference between different things that they find around this crime scene. And of course, we think Xavier's going to be really good at that. He's a lawyer. He's going to go for detail. But Xavier was flying through. He did the best out of anybody, finishing with a time of 10:18. Xavier held it down. Like, he was not playing around. He wanted to make sure that he won this competition. And, Kylan is all in his feelings after he lost this competition. He's beating himself up. He goes, he's just really like flustered. And we get to this scene where him and Xavier have a conversation. And Xavier's like, I don't want to discuss anything about who I'm going to be putting up for nominations. I just want to enjoy my day. And that puts Kylan a little bit uneasy. Like, he's really uneasy about that. And it just seems like at this point, Kylan is like grasping to make sure that he is still holding on to Xavier's promise. And Xavier didn't want to give him a clear answer on it. So Kylan is very worried at this point. He's beating himself up. He's very emotional. Kylan, to me, at certain points in this game, I don't know if you guys saw this way before, he seemed very unstable at certain times. It just seemed like he could get real emotional at the drop of the dime. Maybe I would be the same way in the house if so many emotions are going on. Everybody can't handle the emotions the same exact way as the stronger people in the house. And this is just, I guess, how Kylan gets his, emotions out, by like either getting upset or beating himself up or just going to the extreme with just how he thinks. It was just very weird to me, the whole way that he moves throughout the game. So we're finding out about all of that, and now Big D was already upset that Kylan, put him up on the block, and Big D is really questioning, like, where does Kylan's loyalty lie? Asa is at the point where she's just like, you know what, I don't have any problem with putting Kylan up, and she's trying to find out where X's loyalty lies. So they sit down and have a conversation and basically are like, you know what, you guys want to be Batman and Superman, but how about you have, Batman and Wonder Woman or something like that? Or Superman and Wonder Woman, whatever you want to do. We can do it. We can hook it up. And, X is kind of playing it cool because he doesn't really know where he wants to go with this. But I think he's really trying to gun for Kylan at this point. So really, he's keeping his options open because he said, it'd be easier to take Asa and Big D. I'd be guaranteed a win. Let's take them. So that might look better. I know Kylan wants to battle this out for his ego, but it just may very well be that I have to take Big D and Asa. And that, to me, is a good game move because taking Kylan is risky because you don't know how the jury is going to lean or what they're going to go for. Is it going to be more towards, oh, let's go for this person because they were better physically, or let's go for this person because they played a better social game? He doesn't know which type of way they're going to go. So it was a great decision for him to go ahead and say, look, here it is. I'm going to get rid of Kylan. I have to gun for him. So he ends up putting Kylan and Asa on the board. He keeps Big D out of the mix because he has a master plan. He knows what he wants to do. We know that Tiffany had the original master plan, but Xavier has a better plan for this backdooring or whatever you want to, blindsiding. It's not backdooring, it's blindsiding. He's going to blindside Kylan and get him out of there, and he wants to see who's going to do his dirty work. So we get to Wednesday. Kylan is very nervous about being, the upcoming veto that's coming up. He's pacing, he's doing whatever. We're finding out of some of his weird habits, like smelling things, smelling bread, being very weird, and doing things that will go down in BB history because Kylan is making his mark in weird ways. Let's put it that way. So Derek F gives. Oh, there's this one part I just had to mention. So I put it in my notes. I have to mention it. So there's this part that they highlight, I guess, on the next Big Brother at the entrance. That this weird hug between Asa and Derek F. She just looks so uncomfortable in his arms. It just looks like she's uneasy, like she does not want to hug him. Maybe she doesn't want to make X jealous or whatever like that. Who really thinks you're with Derek F anyway? Derek F is not into you, Asa. Come on, give your best friend in the house a hug, But no, she was. It was a weird moment. Anyways, Asa and Big D sit down and talk about the game, and Asa really feels like Big D has the upper hand right now because of his relationships with everybody in the house. Regardless of what he does, he has good relationships with X, he has good relationship with Kylan, and it just leaves her kind of out. And Big D is kind of trying to make her feel like, it's all right. It's not. It's like 50-50. We're good. We're gonna later on find out how Big D really felt about Asa, which really got me all up in arms. Anyway, Big D reveals to Asa that he did make deals with X and Kai. Now, this is a big moment because Asa really felt like they were riding together for the whole time. Like I told Asa at the very beginning of the game, this whole entire game, you were playing for the Jokers. Now it gets down to the nitty-gritty and you can actually see that you were not playing for the Jokers. You should have been playing for yourself. Now, that was it, Asa. You should have known even before all of this time, that this man was playing for himself. Big D has been out for nothing for him but himself from the beginning. So what made you think that this Joker's alliance was going to really hold up altogether through the entire game? He was going to really bring you to the end. It may happen now that we see what's going on right here. But all I got to say is I feel like Asa should have been playing this game for herself. She played unselfishly, of course, but I'm going to see if this pays off. I really, really want to know if an honest, great person can actually win Big Brother. It'll be very interesting to see. Anyway, Asa said she should have kept Hannah and sent a guy away after she finds out about this. She feels real silly. I had to pause my remote after this point because I had to write that and scribble that down because Asa, I told your tail that you should have kept Hannah around. You would have had much better chances of making it even further if you had have kept Hannah around. It really was never a good gameplay for you to get rid of Hannah altogether. Kylan and X should have been sent home last week. Of course, Kylan couldn't, so X should have been gone. Now, you could have really sealed your spot. Maybe you just loved X so much you didn't want to do anything to him, but you're pretty much handing him the check by saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Hannah before I get rid of Kylan or if I get rid of Big D. Somebody had to go. It was all guys. You should have known that. Anyway, we already know that was a silly move, and I didn't feel like it was a good game move for her. We'll see if it pays off, like I said. Kai and Big D talk about, he tries to make sure that Kai is still taking him. Now, this is the conversation I was talking about earlier when I said he's trying to reassure or trying to get this assurance. And Kai is really playing this game where he's like, I don't have to give you an assurance. I'm just trying to, make it to this next part. I don't owe anything to you. You haven't been doing much in this game. Like, he got really down to, like, Kylan was rude as heck to Big D. This is the first time I felt bad for Big D. I was like, he's like, I carried you this game. I've been making moves. You haven't been doing nothing. Which, in a way, is very true. It's not a lie. He has not done much in this game. But to really tell him blunt, straight out to his face and say that, and you know that you have to be working with these people for the rest of this week, and for you to blot that out like that, or blurt it out, it might not have been the best idea, Kylan. You started to get a little bit too high on your horse. So even in the sense of being true, that last conversation that they had between Kylan and Big D, Kylan exited the room. Like, he just can't handle the pressure of talking with Big D and coming up with a resolution on what he wants, to happen in this game. And he just was very unsure of himself. And that is kind of, I think, what is messing Kylan up in the game as he's playing it. So we finally get to the veto, and we're at this point where they have these balls and they have to add to the number of the balls that are going up and everything like that. And Xavier ends up winning that veto with adding which ball goes where. And I thought that for a minute that Asa might pull it out again, but yeah, it didn't look likely. But they had to sit on this little seesaw and add the number of days and what day it happened in the house and all of that. Very interesting game. Asa was out sooner. Big D was the one that looked like he was going to pull it out. Not Asa, I'm sorry. Big D was the one that looked like he was getting ready to pull that thing out, and he ended up losing at the last minute. So it is what it is. Xavier won again, and he gets to keep that power veto. And that's when there's another conversation where Kylan, and that's when he comes to talk to him. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where he said, I find it offensive if you don't keep me or take me to the final three. Kylan, what are you talking about? You find it offensive. This is a game. You need to learn how to play the game. You can't be mad at people making moves for themselves at this point. There's no more of this loyalty stuff. You play Big Brother like this. Now, if you start to trust people and really feel like there's, this gentleman code or whatever you're talking about, then that's on you. But at this point, you can't tell people it'd be offensive if you did not take me to it. Who are you and what are you talking about? You're talking like you're talking to a manager at Kmart or something like that. It doesn't work like that. This is Big Brother. Get with it. Anyway, hope I'm not being too harsh. I've never been in the Big Brother house, the game. I know it's very difficult and all these emotions are running high, but I do feel like you have to kind of know that at this point in the game, people are looking out for themselves. And I know it sucks to be in that place at the very end of the game and you made it this far, but that's when you got to really think of how you can pull yourself through. That's what Tiffany did. Even when she was down, she was like, okay, how else can I work this? I got to do whatever I got to do to stay in this house. I might have to start a little drama or do something, but I need to get this going now. So we get to Thursday. This is the last eviction before the finale. So this is the final one where somebody gets to decide your fate, which somebody gets to decide it on the next one too. But this is like the big one because the finale night, everything is just very fast. It goes rapidly, but this is the one where you can really think about it and see what kind of move you want to make. So Kyland and Big D sit down and talk about being stressed about Kyland and the decisions that Kyland is making, and they make it pretty clear that he has done favors for Big D and X. Kyland wants to make that very clear, but they feel like Kyland is kind of delusional at this point, that he's thinking that just because he has done these people favors that they have to carry him through to the next thing. I mean, it's the honest thing to do, but this is Big Brother and you got to do what you got to do. So Colin is really frustrated. He's getting very aggressive about people following through with the plan and keeping the guys together, and he's getting a little upset, and a little bit more upset than he should be. Like I said, this was a conversation that him and Big D had where they're talking in the kitchen and Kylan is like, you said you're going to do that on your word. And he's like, he's really holding this thing about being honorable and all of these things with Big D, and he's saying it's a struggle because he's been with Asa this whole time, and he really loves you, Kylan, but it's a tough decision. And Kylan's not giving him the space or time to really figure that out. So Big D then kind of says what he has to say, and he kind of exits up the steps. But I feel like Kylan still was not helping his case. It's coming on a little bit too aggressive, too harsh. Who wants to keep anybody that's like that could be a threat to their game if you're threatening them already? You're kind of threatening them to keep you. And I didn't really like that at that point. So Asa, X, and Big D sit down and have this huge conversation about all of these things that are going on within the house. And then Asa's like, well, if Big D ain't gonna get him out, I am gonna get him out. Yeah, they had to bleep out an Asa word. I was like, Asa, you have not cussed all season, and now all of a sudden you getting a little bold up in here. I said it just took getting down to like the last 4 for Asa to put on her big girl panties and start telling it like it was. I was like, okay, now Asa, I see you. You got little points for me right there, throwing them words out. No, anyway, Asa was just telling it like it was, and so Xavier's battling in his mind if he wants to let Big D make this decision of taking that shot at Kylan, or let Asa come in because she's definitely going to handle it. But I feel like X was being very calculated he ends up keeping Big D in the end, but he ends up keeping him there. He does not use the veto. He keeps the noms the same. And I think the strategy was Big D has not won any challenges. So he had none of that under his belt. He hasn't won any HOHs. Asa had won an HOH, so if she was able to win an HOH and take out one of the biggest targets like Kylan, that might be good for her resume. And I think X was thinking about that also to why. Maybe he wasn't. I'm just like thinking in the mind of X, thinking what could he be thinking on why he would keep the nom the same and go with the sure bet that Asa would go ahead and take him out. Asa would have been very good for her resume, so I think X was thinking about that also. So it was a good decision for him to go ahead and let let Derek F handle the big things. I keep calling him Derek F. Everybody calls him Big D now. But anyway, we get to the part Asa and Big D discuss who did more in the game. Now that was a part that I kept rolling my eyes. My eyes was like, I can't even roll them my hair. Hold on. My eyes were just like, oh my God. Like that. They were rolling like that. I hate rolling my eyes because my eyes already cross sometimes. But anyway, they were up here like arguing about who did more than who in the game. And I'm just like, at this point, y'all are wasting footage right now because each one of y'all did equally. Nobody carried nobody. Big D, you didn't carry no Asa nowhere. Asa, you didn't carry no Big D nowhere. You are just here in the house to go with whoever's going to be there on the final 2. So y'all need to decide what's going to happen. Find out who you can go schmooze to X or schmooze to one another so that y'all can take each other in the end. Personally, I would love to see 2 people that floated through get through. This has been the wildest season. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, from Frenchie's craziness at the beginning to all this other crazy stuff that's been happening this season, it would not surprise me if the strongest player went home and then you kept 2 people that really didn't win much, didn't do anything. It would be like that would be like amazing. I would love to see Asa win. To tell you the truth, at this point, I know X is going to win. But I like to bet against the oddball. So I would love to see Asa pull out a win. Y'all kept her around all this time. Queen Asa, I'm here for you. Even though I just talked about you up and down and just said all that, maybe you should just win this game. How about it? Let's just let Asa win this game. And I know she's been doing some crazy stuff in this game, but hey, show them up here. Show them that you made the right move by sending Hannah home. And that would prove to me I would eat crow like Wendy Williams. Just eat some crow or something like that if you went ahead and did that. Anyway, so Big D is frustrated with Asa, and he's all in his feelings at this point because they've argued about who did the most in the game. And that's when I start to see his more that character that I don't like Big D in. And I know I've talked about Big D here and there, but it's just so many ugly moments like behind the camera, even though y'all might be friends. I guess when you're in the Big Brother house, you're supposed to get those emotions out and tell them how you really feel. But I would always be overthinking, like, what if they go back and look at this after we're at the house and I'm still trying to be friends with these people? Like, what are they going to think? Maybe there's really no loyalty in it, and maybe these are just friends for TV. But I would want to remain, keep a good Big Brother bond with people that were in the house. So maybe I wouldn't say anything rude, but I just feel like it was kind of low. Like, he was like, I'm so sick of Asa. I've been carrying her this whole time. I carried her. What other ways do you want me to say it? I packed your bags. I did this. I carried. Like, I'm just like, there's a certain way you can say things without being nasty. And I just feel like sometimes he just comes off as nasty. And I don't care for it. Just like Kylan. Like, they're one and the same to me. That's probably why they got along so well. They're both very, to me, self-indulgent and just kind of nasty at times. So I didn't care for them. Anyway, we switch over from that because we're on eviction night. So we switch over to the jury house and we now see Tiffany comes in. Tiffany is so excited to share with them. She's kind of scared, but she's excited to talk about the cookout because she's the first member of the cookout to go into the jury. Everybody's shocked to see her there, but I really, really love how everybody in the whole jury was very, very impressed by the master plan when she explained it. The only person that didn't seem very excited about it was Sarah Beth. Go figure. Sarah Beth wasn't she's like, I know this girl did not get me out of this house with this stupid master plan. I wish I had have done this because it was genius. But she'll never say that. She'll never give Tiffany her props. Anyway, Sarah Beth seemed the only one that was unenthused. But I did agree with something that she went ahead and said because she basically just told them that she's not voting for Kylan because Kylan did things in a hurtful way. If Kylan came through that, was in the final two, she's voting for X because he was able to do things socially without hurting feelings and stuff like that I just didn't care for. So I feel like this jury is really going to vote off of emotion no, let me not say that. It's going to be like a 50-50 split. I feel like some people are going to vote off of emotion, maybe like Sarah Bev, Brittany, but I think there's a lot of game players there, and that's how you can see the excitement coming from Derek X. He was so enthused about the way they played the game. Even Alyssa, she was very enthused about how they played this game. They did the right thing. They really held it down. And so I really hope that they play from a game standpoint of who played the game the best. That's how you decide who wins Big Brother. I always play. Even though I might be all in my feelings, I hope that it would never be like that. I feel like Kylan is going to get in there and he's going to vote off of emotion. There's no way he's going to put in a key for X to win at all. I really don't think that. He wants to be the big dog. And for X to outwit him, that was it. I've already gotten to the end of the show already because we're going to get into this huge moment in Big Brother history in just a second. Anyway, Hannah comes into the house. Everybody was basically in tears when Tiffany talked, and when Hannah came in, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Hannah's here too. And Tiffany feels kind of responsible for having Hannah there. But in the end, Chada was cool, and she was basically explaining that, we had to make this move for the cookout. And I really like her heart, her spirit. That's why I love Chada so much. I loved Tiffany. They were two of my favorites. So now it's eviction time. Kylan is way emotional during his speech. Big D did a wonderful speech too, and he wasn't really that scared or anything, but we're at this moment when Kylan is about to leave the house and he's evicted. Derek F or Big D tells him, you are now evicted, and he ain't liking it. He gives hugs to most people. I don't even know if he hugged Big D, but he starts to go in. Like, he's really, really going in. Him and X start going back and forth, and then he brings up something about him being an example for his nephew, the one that had his one of the family members died, and he kind of was the role model for him. So he starts bringing his family into it, and X ain't having it. He's like, talk about my nephew one more time. You know, we're not going to do this. Is a game. We're not going to play this. And Asa's kind of like, y'all don't do this. Don't do this. And then Big D is like, you know what? It's a game. You know, I felt like I would rather go with Asa than go with you. And I'm explaining this. And he's all in his emotions and feelings, almost to the point where I thought that they were going to throw I thought they were going to throw some hands. Like, I thought it was going to happen. And it did not, thank God. I feel like Kylan was trying to push X's buttons because he switched onto that crazy mode real fast. And he was trying to get those emotions so that he would punch them and then he would have been out of it. He just did not want to lose. He did not want to lose to X. He had already pictured in his mind him winning this game, which everybody does. And when it doesn't go your way, some people handle it much differently. So at a certain point in time, Julie was like, Kylan, you need to leave the house now. You gotta go. Like, it was very forceful. Julie be on it. Like, Julie is like, Kylan, you need to get out of the house now. Like, I'm just like, okay, Julie, with that authority. You better come through with the authority, Julie. Let him know. Get out of there. Dude comes out of there smiling like he has split personalities. I'm like, Kylan, dude. And even when he was delivering everything, it's this delusion that he lives in where, you know, he was just basically out of luck to just win by not, you know, being backstabbing and all this stuff. And basically X went out with style. He gave him a wonderful exit speech and said he wants to be friends outside the house. I doubt that may happen. I don't know if they can make amends after that. Emotions are running high, so maybe he'll apologize or find a way to make amends with X. But I really feel like they're going to bring that up at the reunion. We're here for the drama. CBS knows it. There's probably going to be a conversation between X and Kylan at a certain point. They're going to, you know, hopefully they'll make amends or whatever like that, because I feel like there was a true, you know, brotherhood there, and I hope that they can put differences aside. But when you start bringing people's families into the mix, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. Even Da'Vonne brought that up on her Twitter, like, no. What we're not going to do is bring in family that has nothing to do with Big Brother. We're not going to do that just for the game, okay? So Da'Vonne made that known, and in the end, you know, that temper, it's the thing that at the end, Kylan has a temper. And even though people want to see past it with the smiles and the giggles and the lightheartedness, Kylan has a little temper on him, and he tries to pacify it with being nice, but altogether, it doesn't come off as nice. So all in all, Kylan is out of here. We got rid of him. Thank God. I was ready for him to go because he got rid of Tiffany. So it's tit for tat for me because I wanted Tiffany to stay. So you got rid of Tiffany. You're going out the door next. I cannot wait to see him walk to the jury house because Tiffany and Shonda are going to have it out with this boy. I cannot wait to see what happens with that. But all I know is y'all got to tune in. We have a shorter week this week. I think there's a special episode that came on Friday. I'll probably discuss just a little bit of that next week. That's the final week of Big Brother, the finale. Make sure y'all are tuning in. Come back and see me on Monday. Make sure y'all subscribe, comment on this, you know, this channel. Come join, because I'll have some more stuff that I do after Big Brother's all said and done. But make sure you hop on over here to see the finale. Me break it all down. I might have a few surprises too. We shall see. But make sure you come back next week for the finale discussion of Big Brother. And I will see you next week. Bye, Julie. All right, guys. So I know I don't normally do this, and I didn't even get a chance to do a BB Blast. So this is my BB Blast because ever since I recorded this video on Friday, so much has been happening between all this Kylan stuff and all of these messages I've seen on Twitter. So I wanted to share a few tweets with you that I found on the internet, along with a note from Kylan's family on his page on Instagram. So you got to listen to this. So Vanessa Scott wrote, Kylan did this to himself. People have been saying for a month Xavier is going to win this game, and yet the entire cookout catered to him and handed him the game. He deserves to win at this point. Bye, Kylan. Hashtag BB23. Then somebody else named Clay says, Kylan significantly decreased his odds of winning by evicting Tiffany to please Xavier. Tiffany would have had Kylan's back over Xavier's, and X knew that. He used Kai to evict his biggest threat. Meanwhile, Kylan thought him and X had some type of blood oath to the end. With a little dead face and then a laughing my ass off face. Hashtag BB23. I totally agree with Clay on this point. I said that from the beginning. His best bet would have been to just go ahead and keep Tiffany there. you knew X was going to get you out. So I just had to read that to you. And then there's one more that cracked me up. It was like a GIF, but it said Hannah and Tiffany when they see Kylan walk out into the jury round table. This comes from True on Twitter, hashtag BB23. And he got these two guys sitting there cracking up laughing because he's about to walk right into that jury house, which I cannot wait to see. Also, I had to mention there was a release statement by Kylan's family on his page, kind of justify what Kylan did. Although I read an article that was in, I think it was in Variety magazine, where Kylan is unapologetic about even bringing up X's brother and his son into the situation. So I really don't take any like grain of salt like for what his family is trying to put forth, trying to like clean up his image. He needs to correct this himself. Anyway, listen to this message. As Kylan's friends and family, we wanted to acknowledge that Kylan let this week and his emotions get the best of him. We know that this will be a humbling and enlightening experience for him. It's one of the many things we love about Kylan. He's always willing to learn from his mistakes. The historic achievements of the cookout are going to be his most dearly held memories from this game. After how he acted, he needs to clean up his own act. Let's just put it that way. Anyhow, I would love to know you guys feeling about all of these new things that have been coming up and what your thoughts on Kylan were too. I just wanted to share all this with you guys. I'll see you next Monday for another Big Brother finale review. Holla.